The silver hull of the hegemony scout vessel Draksha gleamed against the darkness of space as it approached the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Commander Zarvex stood on the bridge, his four eyes narrowing as the blue-green world filled the view screen. "Another primitive world to add to our records," he said, mandibles clicking with boredom. "Scan for technology levels and sentient life." His science officer, Talmir, worked the controls with her six-fingered hands. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures. This species has achieved nuclear fission and primitive space travel." "Interesting," Zarvex replied, suddenly more alert. The galactic hegemony had ruled over 2,000 star systems for millennia. Discovering new species was rare, especially ones on the verge of interstellar capability. "Open standard first contact protocols. Let's see what these creatures are like." The humans responded faster than expected. Within 6 planetary rotations, they had organized a delegation to meet aboard the neutral space station orbiting their moon. Zarvex selected his finest diplomats and prepared to welcome Earth into the fold of the hegemony. John Carter, a broad-shouldered man with short brown hair, led the human delegation. Beside him stood Lisa Morgan, her red hair tied back neatly, sharp green eyes assessing the aliens with careful calculation. "We welcome you to Sol System," Carter said, extending his hand in the human greeting custom. "We are honored to join the galactic community." Zarvex did not take the offered hand. "The hegemony has existed for 50,000 years. Your world will benefit greatly from our protection and guidance. We require merely your complete submission and a tribute of 10% of your world's resources annually." Carter and Morgan exchanged glances. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Morgan said firmly. "Earth wishes to join the galactic community as equals, not subjects." Zarvex laughed, a harsh chittering sound. "Equals? Your species has barely left its cradle. You have no standing to demand equality." Carter stepped forward. "Commander, we've studied your vessel. We understand your technology better than you might expect. We don't want conflict, but we must warn you. Humans don't respond well to threats or demands." "Is that a threat?" Zarvex's voice dropped dangerously low. "It's advice," Carter replied. "Humanity has fought itself for thousands of years. War is in our blood. We've developed from spears to nuclear weapons in less time than your species has ruled the galaxy. We adapt. We overcome. We survive. If you force this issue, you will regret it." Morgan added, "We suggest a mutually beneficial trade agreement instead. We have resources and cultural exchanges to offer." The hegemony diplomats whispered among themselves, mandibles clicking rapidly. Zarvex silenced them with a gesture. "In 10,000 years, no species has refused the hegemony's protection," he said coldly. "You will submit or face the consequences." "Then we have nothing more to discuss," Carter said. "But remember this moment, Commander. We warned you to run." Back on Earth, emergency meetings filled the United Nations chambers. Military leaders from all nations gathered as Carter and Morgan delivered their report. "They've given us 10 days to surrender," Carter told the assembled leaders. "After that, they'll consider us in rebellion against the hegemony." "Can we negotiate?" asked the Secretary General. Morgan shook her head. "They don't see us as equals. To them, we're just another primitive species to be conquered." "Then we prepare for war," said General Alan Foster, rising from his seat. "We'll need to unite like never before." Within days, former enemies became allies. Scientists worked around the clock, analyzing the data gathered from the hegemony ship. Military forces consolidated under a single command structure for the first time in human history. As the deadline approached, Zarvex watched Earth from orbit, amused by the frantic activity he observed. These humans would learn their place, just like all the others before them. He gave the order to prepare the invasion fleet. He had no idea he had just made the greatest mistake in the hegemony's long history. The hegemony attack began at dawn. 50 warships emerged from hyperspace, their sleek hulls glinting in the sunlight as they positioned themselves above Earth's major cities. Commander Zarvex stood confidently on his command deck, anticipating a swift victory. "Begin the first wave," he ordered. "Standard subjugation protocol. Target their military installations and government centers." Particle beams lanced down from the alien vessels, aimed at strategic locations around the globe. But instead of the expected devastation, the beams scattered against invisible barriers. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, confusion evident in his voice, "the humans have some kind of energy shield technology. Our weapons are having minimal effect." Zarvex's four eyes blinked rapidly in surprise. "Impossible." Their technology level was assessed as pre-shield. Increase power and continue the assault. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Sam Bennett watched the alien attack falter against humanity's hastily deployed defenses. "The reverse-engineered shields are holding," reported his lieutenant. "All major cities protected." Bennett nodded grimly. Launch Operation Hornet's Nest. Across the planet, hidden missile silos opened. Hundreds of nuclear-tipped rockets, modified with technology gleaned from studying the Hegemony scout ship, roared into the sky. The aliens, expecting primitive ballistics, were caught completely unprepared when the missiles phased through their defensive screens. 3 Hegemony cruisers erupted in blinding explosions before they could react. The remaining ships scrambled to adjust their defenses, creating chaos in their formation. "Now," ordered Bennett, "launch the fighters." 500 aerospace fighters streaked upward from hidden bases, piloted by the best Earth had to offer. Unlike the bulky Hegemony vessels, these craft were small, agile, and specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses observed in alien technology. Pilot Grace Wilson led Falcon Squadron directly at the Hegemony flagship. "Remember the plan," she radioed to her team. "Hit and run. Don't give them time to adapt." The human fighters darted between the massive alien vessels, targeting propulsion systems and weapons arrays with surgical precision. The Hegemony ships, designed for large-scale warfare against similar vessels, struggled to track the smaller, faster Earth craft. Aboard his flagship, Zarvex watched in mounting horror as his carefully orchestrated attack disintegrated into chaos. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These primitives shouldn't have this capability." His second-in-command, Krelvor, approached cautiously. "Sir, we've lost 5 cruisers. The humans are using technology similar to our own, but modified in ways we've never seen. I recommend tactical retreat to regroup." Zarvex hissed in anger, but knew Krelvor was right. "Signal the fleet. Fall back to Mars orbit. We will analyze their tactics and return with overwhelming force." As the Hegemony fleet retreated, leaving behind burning wreckage of their destroyed ships, Earth celebrated its first victory. But military leaders knew this was just the beginning. In a secure laboratory beneath Geneva, Dr. Olivia Wright examined captured alien technology. Her team had been working nonstop since first contact, reverse engineering everything they could. "The Hegemony made a critical mistake," she explained to the gathered military officials. "They assumed we couldn't adapt quickly. Their technology has been standardized for thousands of years. They'd forgotten how to innovate." General Frank Miller nodded thoughtfully. "Can we build ships capable of taking the fight to them?" "We already have prototypes," Wright replied, bringing up holographic designs, using their own technology against them, but with human creativity and unpredictability built in. At the Hegemony forward base on Mars, Zarvex struggled to explain their failure to the Supreme Council. The humans had demolished a third of his fleet in less than an hour, something no species had accomplished in millennia. "These humans," he admitted reluctantly, "are unlike any species we've encountered. They warned us, but we didn't listen." The Supreme Councilor's hologram flickered with rage. "Then eliminate them completely. No more subjugation protocols. Destroy their world if necessary." Zarvex nodded, but doubt had taken root in his mind. For the first time in his long career, he questioned whether the Hegemony had finally met its match. The Hegemony troops trudged through the red dust of Mars, establishing their forward base in the abandoned human colony. Their usual efficiency was hampered by constant anxiety. Every shadow, every distant sound made them flinch. The humans had proven far more dangerous than expected. "Secure the perimeter," barked Commander Zarvex to his subordinates. "I want motion sensors and plasma barriers at double strength." Krelvor approached with a status report. "Sir, the troops are unsettled. 3 soldiers requested psychological evaluation after the last human attack." Zarvex hissed with frustration. "What is wrong with them? We outnumber the humans 10 to 1. "It's their tactics, sir," Krelvor explained. "The humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They don't retreat when they should. They attack when it seems suicidal. They adapt to our strategies faster than we can implement them." A distant explosion rocked the base, sending clouds of red dust into the thin Martian atmosphere. Alarms blared throughout the compound. "What now?" Zarvex demanded. "Human strike team." "Sir," a communications officer reported. "They've destroyed the western sensor array and disappeared again." This was the 5th such attack in 3 days. The humans, led by Major Kevin Diaz, had become experts at hit-and-run guerrilla warfare. His small team of Special Forces operators moved like ghosts across the Martian landscape, striking critical infrastructure before vanishing into hidden tunnels beneath the surface. In his underground command post, Diaz studied the holographic map of the alien base. "Their patrol patterns are changing again," he told his team. "They're learning, but not fast enough." Elena Foster, his explosives expert, grinned. "They still think in straight lines. No imagination." "That's our advantage," Diaz agreed. "While they're busy fortifying Mars, Earth is building our fleet. We just need to keep them distracted and studying the wrong things." Back on Earth, in the massive underground shipyards beneath the Pacific Ocean, human engineers worked tirelessly. The first human starships were taking shape, incorporating both stolen alien technology and uniquely human innovations. Dr. Olivia Wright stood before the pride of the new fleet, the NSS Defiance. Unlike the bulky hegemony vessels, human ships were smaller, faster, and far more adaptable. "The FTL drive is operational," she announced to Admiral Jake Porter, "based on hegemony tech, but with significant improvements. Our ships will be 30% faster than theirs." Porter nodded appreciatively. "When can we deploy?" 2 weeks for the first squadron," Wright replied. "Just in time for Operation Blindside." The plan was already in motion. While the hegemony focused on fortifying Mars and preparing for a full-scale invasion of Earth, human forces would strike where they least expected it, their supply lines. In deep space, near Jupiter's orbit, the first test of human FTL technology was underway. Captain Mia Rodriguez piloted the stealth scout ship Phantom, approaching the hegemony supply convoy. "Their sensors haven't detected us," her tactical officer reported. "The phase-shifting cloaking device is working perfectly." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Record everything. Their ship configurations, communication frequencies, transponder codes. We'll need it all for the main attack." The information gathered would allow Earth's growing fleet to disrupt hegemony supply chains throughout the system, slowly starving their Mars base of crucial resources. On the hegemony homeworld, the Supreme Council received Zarvex's latest report with growing concern. "These humans refuse to behave as predicted," the High Counselor growled. "Our models show they should have surrendered after the first attack." An ancient counselor, whose species had been among the first conquered by the hegemony, spoke softly. "Perhaps we were wrong to dismiss their warning." "Nonsense," the High Counselor snapped. "No primitive species can stand against the hegemony. We will adapt and crush them, as we have done for 50,000 years." But doubt spread through the council chamber like a shadow. For the first time in living memory, the hegemony faced an enemy that did not fear them. An enemy that had promised not victory, but a warning. "We warned you to run." As Zarvex stared at the red Martian sunset, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. one that might cost the hegemony everything. The bridge of the NSS Defiance hummed with activity as Admiral Paul Rodriguez surveyed the holographic battle map. Earth's first battle fleet, 50 ships strong, assumed attack formation at the edge of the solar system. After 6 months of hit-and-run tactics, Operation Thunderbolt was about to begin. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his communications officer. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Begin the countdown. Synchronize FTL jumps." The plan was bold, perhaps even reckless. Earth's fleet would simultaneously strike 7 hegemony positions across the solar system, including their Mars headquarters. The goal wasn't simply to push the aliens back, but to drive them out of humanity's home system entirely. On the destroyer NSS Valiant, Lieutenant Kate Wilson made final adjustments to her targeting systems. 3 weeks earlier, she had made a critical discovery while analyzing hegemony shield technology. Their shields oscillate at regular intervals, she explained to her weapons team. A nanosecond pulse, precisely timed, can slip through during the reset phase. This discovery had been rapidly shared throughout Earth's fleet. Every human vessel now carried Wilson's shield cracker modification. "Jumping in 30 seconds, announced the Valiant's captain. Wilson closed her eyes briefly, thinking of her family back on Earth. This was humanity's first major offensive. Success meant survival. Failure meant possible extinction. The human fleet vanished in simultaneous flashes of blue light, reappearing scattered throughout the solar system. At Mars, 7 Earth battleships materialized directly above the hegemony headquarters. Commander Zarvex was in the middle of a strategy meeting when the alarm sounded. He rushed to the command center, mandibles clicking in agitation. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander," his sensor officer replied. "They appeared without warning. Their FTL technology has evolved." Before Zarvex could respond, the first barrage hit. Shield crackers penetrated their defenses, followed by a devastating volley of missiles. Half the base was destroyed in the initial attack. "Return fire," Zarvex ordered, but the human ships moved in unpredictable patterns, evading most of the hegemony weapons. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. At Jupiter's moons, 3 hegemony mining operations fell within minutes. The supply depot at Saturn's rings was reduced to floating debris. The listening post near Pluto went silent after a single human cruiser appeared and unleashed a new weapon, a gravity bomb that crushed the station into a dense ball of metal. On the NSS Defiance, Admiral Rodriguez watched as reports flooded in from all attack groups. "Mars base is 70% destroyed," reported his tactical officer. "Hegemony forces are abandoning position. They're retreating toward the outer system." Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. "Pursue and continue the assault. Don't let them regroup." News of the human counterattack spread rapidly across hegemony communication channels. For the first time in thousands of years, hegemony forces were in full retreat. The psychological impact was devastating. The supposedly inferior humans had not only resisted but were now pushing the mighty hegemony back. Within 24 hours, Operation Thunderbolt had achieved its primary objective. The solar system was clear of hegemony forces. Human ships took up defensive positions at the system's edge, preparing for the inevitable counterattack. But Rodriguez had no intention of merely defending. "Prepare the Pathfinder Squadron," he ordered. "It's time to take the fight to their territory." This had always been the second phase of the operation. While most of Earth's fleet would remain to protect the home system, a small, elite group of ships would venture into hegemony space, striking targets of opportunity and gathering intelligence. On the hegemony homeworld, news of the defeat caused panic in the Supreme Council. "Impossible." The High Counselor raged. "How could primitives drive our forces from an entire system?" An intelligence officer stepped forward hesitantly. "The humans. They're spreading the word of their victory to our subjugated worlds. We're receiving reports of uprisings on 7 planets already." The council chamber fell silent. The unthinkable was happening. The myth of hegemony invincibility was crumbling, and it had taken just one species, humans, to ignite the spark of rebellion throughout the galaxy. In his quarters aboard a retreating hegemony vessel, Zarvex remembered the humans' warning at their first meeting. "We warned you to run." Only now did he truly understand what they meant. The grand chamber of the Hegemony Council buzzed with angry voices. The massive oval table, carved from rare stellar marble, was surrounded by representatives from the ruling species. Above them, holographic displays showed the latest devastating news. 3 more star systems had fallen to the human-led coalition in the past week alone. "This is unprecedented," shouted Councillor Draz, slamming his scaled fist on the table. "In 50,000 years, no species has ever taken hegemony territory." Supreme Councillor Vexmore raised his hand for silence. His ancient eyes, set in a face lined with the wrinkles of 1,000 years, surveyed the panicked council members. "Commander Zarvex must answer for this catastrophe," he said quietly. "Bring him in." Zarvex entered the chamber with his head held high, though his inner membranes fluttered with anxiety. The failure to contain the human threat had turned him from a respected commander into a symbol of hegemony weakness. "You assured us these humans would be crushed easily," Vexmore began. "Instead, they have driven us from their system, liberated 3 of our vassal worlds, and inspired rebellion throughout the quadrant. How do you explain this?" Zarvex knew his career, possibly his life, was over. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered," he admitted. "They adapt faster than we can respond. Their technology evolves weekly, not over centuries like ours. And they fight with a ferocity that terrifies our troops." "Excuses," hissed Draz. "Your failure is complete. You should be executed for incompetence." Before Zarvex could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A communications officer rushed in, panic evident in his movements. "Supreme Councillor, human ships have been detected at the edge of the home system." The council erupted in chaos. The hegemony homeworld had not faced a threat in over 40,000 years. On the bridge of the NSS Intrepid, Admiral Paul Rodriguez studied the hegemony home system. His small fleet of 12 advanced warships had jumped farther than any human vessels before, penetrating deep into enemy territory. "All ships maintain stealth protocols," he ordered. "We're here to deliver a message, not start a battle." Beside him stood Michelle Garcia, Earth's diplomatic envoy. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her expression serious as she reviewed her prepared statement one last time. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked Rodriguez quietly. "No," he admitted, "but offering peace before we demonstrate our new weapon gives us the moral high ground." The weapon in question was housed aboard the Intrepid, the culmination of Dr. Olivia Wright's research. Earth scientists had developed a device that could trigger a controlled collapse of a planet's magnetosphere, rendering it temporarily uninhabitable without destroying it completely. They called it the Planet Cracker. "We're being scanned," reported the sensor officer. "They've detected us despite our cloaking." Rodriguez nodded. "As expected. Open a channel to their homeworld." On the hegemony homeworld, the council watched in stunned silence as Michelle Garcia's image appeared on their main screen. "Esteemed leaders of the hegemony," she began, her voice calm and measured. "I come with an offer from Earth and its allied worlds. End this war now. Recognize the independence of Earth and the 3 systems we have liberated. Establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect, not domination." Councillor Draz laughed harshly. "Your small fleet threatens us. The hegemony does not negotiate with primitives. We have 10,000 ships that will reduce your homeworld to ash." Garcia's expression didn't change. "We anticipated your response. To demonstrate our seriousness, we will now target an uninhabited moon in your system with our new technology." Before the council could respond, the smallest moon of the hegemony's 6th planet began to glow an eerie blue. Fissures appeared across its surface, spreading like cracks in glass. Within minutes, the entire moon collapsed inward, leaving only a field of debris. Silence fell over the council chamber. The display of power was unmistakable. If humans could destroy a moon so easily, what else were they capable of? "You have 48 hours to consider our terms," Garcia continued. "We prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. Remember what we told you at first contact. We warned you to run." As Garcia's transmission ended, the human fleet vanished again into FTL space, leaving behind a stunned and frightened Hegemony Council. Tsar Vex, watching from the side of the chamber, felt a strange mixture of vindication and dread. He had warned them about the humans, but even he hadn't realized just how formidable they truly were. The massive Hegemony defense fleet hung in space like a metal cloud, 10,000 warships arranged in perfect formation around the homeworld. Despite their overwhelming numbers, a sense of dread permeated the fleet. They were about to face humans in direct battle for the first time. "Enemy contact," announced the sensor operator aboard the Hegemony flagship. Multiple FTL signatures detected. Supreme War Director Krelvos watched as hundreds of human vessels materialized at the edge of the system. Their numbers were far fewer than the Hegemony fleet, but Krelvos had learned not to underestimate these creatures. "Launch first strike battalions," he ordered. "Maintain defensive shell around the homeworld at all costs." 2,000 Hegemony ships broke formation, accelerating toward the human fleet, their weapons charged, ready to unleash devastation on the intruders. Aboard the NSS Defiance, Admiral Rodriguez calmly observed the approaching enemy. His fleet had grown considerably since their first victory. 300 ships, including vessels from liberated worlds who had joined the human cause. "They're following standard Hegemony engagement patterns," noted his tactical officer. "No innovations." Rodriguez nodded. "Exactly as expected. Execute Maneuver Hydra." The human fleet suddenly split into 7 smaller groups, each taking a different vector. Instead of meeting the Hegemony attack head-on, they scattered in patterns that seemed random but followed a complex algorithm designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. "What are they doing?" Krelvos demanded as his ships struggled to adjust their attack vectors. "Concentrate fire on the largest group." But this was exactly what the humans had planned for. As Hegemony weapons focused on one group, the others slipped through gaps in their formation, penetrating deep into the system. Landing craft secured for atmospheric entry. Colonel Ryan Jackson reported from the troop carrier NSS Normandy. His ship, along with 20 others, had broken through the Hegemony lines and was approaching the homeworld. Jackson checked his battle armor one last time. His ground forces, 10,000 elite soldiers, were about to attempt something unprecedented, a direct assault on the Hegemony capital. "Remember, our objective is the Central Command Complex," he reminded his troops. "Disable their communications network, and the entire defense grid falls." Their ships dove into the atmosphere, evading defensive fire from ground installations. The landing was rough but successful, with human troops deploying quickly into the outskirts of the massive alien city. On the Hegemony homeworld, panic spread among the civilian population. They had never experienced war firsthand. Conflict always happened on distant worlds, fought by their military against inferior species. Now, terrifying human soldiers were advancing through their streets. Emperor Zexkarul, the ancient leader of the Hegemony, watched from his palace as chaos enveloped his capital. For 50,000 years, his lineage had ruled the galaxy unopposed. Now, everything was crumbling. "Deploy the Void Cascade," he commanded his chief scientist. "I will not lose our homeworld to these primitives." The scientist's eyes widened in horror. "Emperor, the Void Cascade is untested. It could destroy our entire system." "Do it," the Emperor hissed. "Better to die than submit to inferior beings." Deep beneath the planet's surface, an ancient weapon, the culmination of Hegemony superscience, began to activate. It was designed to create a localized tear in spacetime, destroying anything within half a light year. Colonel Jackson's forces had reached the central plaza when his science officer detected the energy buildup. "Sir, they're activating some kind of doomsday device," she reported. "Exotic particles gathering below the surface." Jackson didn't hesitate. "All forces, converge on these coordinates. We need to get underground now." As human soldiers fought their way down into the Hegemony scientific complex, the space battle above reached a critical point. The Hegemony fleet, despite its numerical advantage, was in disarray. Human ships targeted command vessels with surgical precision, disrupting the rigid Hegemony chain of command. Underground, Jackson's team reached the Void Cascade chamber just as the device reached critical power levels. The Emperor stood before it, mandibles spread in a defiant snarl. "You have lost, human," he declared. "This device will destroy us all." Jackson raised his weapon. "That's where you're wrong. We adapt. We survive." His shot hit the precise weak point identified by human scientists who had studied hegemony technology. The Void Cascade's energy, suddenly uncontrolled, collapsed back into itself. The resulting implosion destroyed the underground complex, but was contained beneath the surface. The Grand Hall of Concord glittered with light reflected from 1,000 different worlds. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy gathered beneath its crystal dome, seated in a great circle to symbolize their equality. At the center stood a simple round table where the peace treaty would be signed. President Laura Chen approached the table, her steps measured and dignified. As Earth's elected leader, she represented not just humanity but a new vision for galactic civilization. Behind her walked delegates from the 3 worlds liberated during the war, their diverse forms moving with newfound confidence. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning," Chen said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "Humanity never wanted war. We sought only to exist free from domination." Across the table stood High Minister Vex Troll, the newly appointed leader of the reformed hegemony. His once proud posture now seemed weighed down by the burden of his civilization's mistakes. "For 50,000 years, the hegemony ruled through force," Vex Troll acknowledged. "We believed our age gave us wisdom, our power gave us right. We were wrong." The treaty before them was simple in its principles, but revolutionary in its implications. Each world would maintain its sovereignty. Trade would flow freely. Knowledge would be shared. A new galactic confederation would replace the hegemony, with each member having equal voice regardless of their technology level or military strength. As Chen signed her name, a ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Many species still struggled to comprehend how humans, newcomers to the galactic stage, had accomplished the impossible. They had not only defeated the hegemony, but had remade the political structure of the galaxy in less than 2 Earth years. 6 months after the treaty signing, Captain Eric Daniels stood on the bridge of the Confederation vessel Horizon. Unlike the warships he had commanded during the conflict, the Horizon was built for exploration. More remarkable still was its crew, a mixture of humans and members of 12 other species, including former hegemony citizens. "Course plotted for the Andromeda Arm," reported his navigation officer, a blue-skinned Novan whose people had been among the first to join the Human Alliance. "We'll be the first expedition to chart that region." Daniel smiled. "Proceed at your discretion, Lieutenant." This was humanity's true victory, turning from war to peaceful exploration alongside former enemies. The Horizon represented everything Earth had fought for: freedom, cooperation, and the right of all species to reach for the stars together. In a quiet cell on an orbiting station, former Commander Zarvex sat alone, watching the stars through a small window. As a prisoner of war, he was treated humanely, another concept that hegemony had never embraced. Today, he had a visitor. John Carter, now Earth's ambassador to the Confederation, entered the cell and sat across from him. "You look well, Commander," Carter said politely. Zarvex's mandibles clicked softly. "I often think about our first meeting. You warned us to run." Carter nodded. "We never wanted the war." "I understand now what I didn't then," Zarvex said. "It wasn't a threat. It was mercy. You were trying to save us from ourselves." History is full of empires that believed they were invincible, Carter replied. They all fell eventually. What makes humans different? Zarvex asked, genuinely curious. Why offer peace when you could have conquered us completely? Carter considered this. Because domination isn't victory. Building something better together, that's worth fighting for. 100 years later, a young student stood before her class on a world that had once been the hegemony capital. Her project displayed holographic images of the galaxy before and after what historians now called the Liberation War. The most important lesson from that time, she explained, wasn't about humanity's military strength. It was about their vision. When they could have replaced one empire with another, they chose something new, a community of equals. Her teacher, an elderly human who had settled on this world decades ago, nodded approvingly. And what do you think was the key to their success? The student, whose great-grandfather had fought against the humans, answered without hesitation. They understood change is inevitable. The hegemony tried to prevent it. Humans embraced it. They still do. Outside the classroom window, a new Confederation exploration vessel prepared for launch, its crew representing 20 different species. On its hull, written in the languages of all member worlds, was the motto of the Galactic Confederation. Together we explore. Together we grow. Together we thrive.